going to ask team one side that, are you driving the HR technology, which is risk, or is it the innovation which is driving the HR technology? So that's the question which is we're going to answer. You've already been introduced to these teams. What you see here is Jyoti Rai, who's from Amex US, representing not only CHRO community, but a perfect candidate for risk, right? Amex. On left, we have another CHRO from US. They are neighbors, by the way. I didn't plan it that way, it just happened. And Madan will represent Facebook's view, which is known for its innovation, right? So we have very interesting start that is we are happening on both sides. If we move forward, we have Prem. Prem is the CEO for Career Builder. Again, he's going to take the view of the risk. And on the left, we have Rishi, which is SumTotal, Skillsoft. They have seen a lot in the technology world. So both the CEOs are going to share their thoughts, their processes. And then we have Sanjeev on my left, which is about innovation. You saw the chief guest entry. He represents Genpact, the company which has transformed so many business processes across the globe. And on the other side, we have Raj. Raj represents Titan, and thank you very much, Raj, for joining us. When I go forward, we have Pavitran, and we can call him Pav. Yeah, that's how he's dressed. He's relocated to India 2 years ago, representing Marriott as a general manager. So great to have you here. And we have on the other side, Mark. But he has a very interesting background, and he was telling he helps the largest of the corporations, the most new-gen corporations, in building business cases when they do transformation. So who else better than him who can talk about risk? So we're going to start with the team right, on my right side, and over to team risk.
We live in a world known as the VUCA world. Yeah. But for HR specifically, VUCA is not just enough. It's actually we live in a world which I would call an INDICA world. INDICA stands for irreverent, nebulous, digital and dynamic, individualistic, completely customer-driven, and extremely agile. In such a world, it's a very risky proposition if we do not adopt technology. Technology, not for technology's sake. Technology to make it far more human, to bring out the human side and make sure that people connect with people and managers connect with people, etc. Innovation is important. And like success, it has many fathers. But risk is the grandfather of innovation. And why I say that is it's extremely risky not to innovate as well. Yeah? So there's risk that drives a lot of what we do. And to tell us more about that, I pass you on to my panelist.
Wonderful. Risk is the grandfather. So there's one rebuttal. Over to Jyoti.
The human resources function started way back in 1901 with a company which is called National Cash Register. And why it started? It started all with the strike, but it was a poster strike actually, where it was to manage compliance, manage risk around wage management, about workplace safety. But if you now think about 100 years later, even more so, the risk environment has become much more complex, much more demanding. And if you think about in terms of just our own demands of our employees as well, where they are demanding transparency of decisions. And the principles that we have to all think about, how sound are our decisions around fairness, equity, our decisions around making sure that they are not only transparent, but at the same time managing individual data privacy. So therefore, an investment in technology has to be around those risk factors.
Someday I'm going to kill the guy who said data privacy. Don't you think all HR guys want to kill the guy who started this world? I'm telling you the truth. Yes, sir.
The whole environment has become so risky so far as human capital protection for businesses is kind of reached to. The risk factor involved in protecting your existing employees from getting poached or leaving your businesses, or even reaching out to external talent pools or talent outside your organization has become challenging. We need to engage with human capital. Now, this engagement of human capital has to be both internally within the organization and it has to be with the external talent pool also. If businesses today do not understand the risk involved into engaging with the existing talent pool, communicating with them, staying connected with the existing talent pool or the existing employee base, there's always this risk factor of losing connection with them, losing link with them, and then kind of ultimately losing them or giving them an exit option from the organization.
Thank you. Over to you, Mark.
I have 10 seconds. Risk is bad. No. Thanks, everybody. My colleagues have done a great job. I want to take a different position. I would posit that this is about a continuum born of risk. On one side of the continuum is risk aversion, which is where many people sit today associated with HR technology. And the other side is, in fact, innovation. How quickly you can move across that continuum. Our job as technologists, our collective opportunity is to use these tools that are available to us to rapidly move our workforce toward innovation. But it's all about risk.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So we will start with
Risk is not anybody's grandfather. It is not innovation grandmother or grandfather. It is just dead wood, and it is just on the left. We will also show by a model that we have as a team between data, demand, disruption, and death as to why innovation is important. How many of you have heard about innovate or die, right? Whatever, statement, book, etc. All of us. How many of you ever have heard about stay risky or you will die, or stay risky or you will survive? The answer is very clear. So if you look at the data, it's a very compelling case. 60% of the Fortune 500's OPEX today goes in people's salary, goes in investing in people. The next 40% is on servers and technology, and the remaining whatever between 0 and 0 is everything else that we thought was important. 5 years ago, this was not the case. HR and talent and people were one small aspect of a larger machine called the organization, which what the talent opportunity represents today was not there 5 years ago. So the data for innovating is so compelling that it is touching us every day in almost all aspects of our life. I'll pass it on to Bobby. We'll talk about the depth, and that's...
Go ahead.
I'm going to suggest that the single biggest risk that any organization can take, and I suggest this is not just in the HR space, but in any space, the single biggest risk that any organization can take is not to innovate. The risk of not innovating is such that it leads to death. That's how seriously we believe innovation needs to be taken in any organization. And thus, if risk is going to impede this necessary innovation, the organization can face existential crises. And that's something which obviously is a bad thing.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks, Pavitran. Goes to Rishi.
I'm talking about disruption for the 4 Ds of innovation, and I think like Madan was talking earlier, right? You need that data. You also need, in terms of the death part of it, you need to be aware of it. And what about disruption? I think I lived my life, and I can speak to all of you, before internet and after internet. And for me, when I was living before internet, I mean, what was there? There was nothing, there were people, if you wanted to start a business, you needed big dollars. What you wanted was a VC to fund it. You needed a big idea. And once you had, and an MBA, by the way, who had to bring all of that together. And then you went on about creating a design and an engineer. What has Facebook and Google shown us today? Well, all you need is an idea in a dorm room. And if you have the vast majority, you can continue to do that. That's after internet. Now, taking on that disruption part of it, it's just not on the HR technology aspects of it. It's happening in hardware as well.
Thank you. Thanks, Rishi.
Somebody's used the word continuum, and actually I really like the word continuum. You know, if you want to innovate, if you want to create anything, you got to take a risk. I think innovation has to happen. You know, there are these periods in time when things are changing. You know, in Genpact, I can easily say that, you know, we would like to, you know, kind of prevent, I won't even call prevent, we are actually creating an ecosystem which we run operations separately, but we're creating an ecosystem of innovation where we're not putting any restriction. Now I understand the brand value protection. I do understand it. But guess what? A brand value may be worth nothing if that big business itself ceases to exist, right? And we are seeing that across the board. So I think both have to exist together. And I'm not trying to play both sides of the table here, but I really believe that there's a time for innovation, there's a time of creation, and you actually have to shift the boundaries. If you're a large company, you need to do it. Small companies, otherwise the small companies are going to eat your livers, whatever you want to call it. And maybe as a period after period of time, you move towards risk. I truly believe that risk by itself, we won't exist. We exist because somebody innovated. Somebody created something. Risk always follows innovation. When something becomes big enough, that means there's something actually to protect. And then the risk guys come in. Now I want to protect you.
Experience speaks.
Yeah,
Thank you
thank
so
you.
much. Thank you so much.